Hi, it's Hal from Light, and we're here with another video recap of our Monday Night Light training session from yesterday evening. Remember Monday Night Light, the free live online web seminar you're only going to find here at Light from 6:30 to 7:30 Pacific every single week. Some incredible training, and you really can't beat the price. Over the last few weeks we've been talking about sharpening, all different types, and we finished up last night our discussion of the unsharp mask and smart sharpen dialogues with what we do after we click the OK button. We took it a step further and integrated our sharpening with the very detailed mask that we created earlier in the training sessions. We used that mask so we could have targeted sharpening, selecting very specific areas where we would apply the sharpening and now not allowing it to affect areas that don't need it. So I want to highlight that final workflow in just a few minutes here by sharpening this image of an old Ford hot rod. I'm going to start the process by duplicating my background layer. A couple different ways to do that. I'll just drag it down to the bottom of the layers panel. As always, I'm going to give it a meaningful name. I'm going to call it the sharpen layer. The sharpening, as you all know, is going to happen only near our final output once we have sized the image appropriately. Image sizing, that very contentious subject, we're going to talk about that next week. So with a new sharpen layer, it's time to build our mask. First step, click onto the Channels panel and notice as we click through the individual channels which one has the best contrast. Not only contrast on the edges of our image itself as well as the texture inside of that image, but what tends to minimize the background, because we know we generally just want to sharpen our subject and not some other portions. What are those other places we never sharpen? The sky, areas of constant color, flowing water, out of focus areas, or human skin. Always things to look for when we're picking the appropriate channel. For this image, I'm going to go with the green channel. The channel is highlighted. Come up to your Actions panel and highlight the luminance mask or whatever you call that specific action that we built a few weeks ago. For those that are just seeing this discussion for the first time, you can always go to the blog. That's lightworkshops.blogspot.com, and we have a step-by-step instructions as to how to build this mask, as well as another quick 5 to 7 minute video tutorial on building this action so you don't have to do the workflow steps every single time. I'm going to come down and click play, and that begins to build my mask for me. When we stop at the levels, of course, we're going to modify the white and the black point sliders to amplify the white in the image where we want sharpening, and use black to hide what we don't. Now if we can't get there all the way with the levels, not a problem, because as we hit OK, close that dialog box, run a couple other filters, then our action is going to stop and say, okay, do we need to get in there and paint with a brush? In this case we do. So I'll hit stop, grab the brush, make sure that I am painting with black in my foreground color, and then I'll paint onto the image with black areas where I want to ultimately conceal any type of sharpening. Now we know the basic 5 rules, what we don't sharpen, but in this case here we're going to extend that to the foreground grass and foliage, because if we were to sharpen that, it's just going to compete with our subject matter, and we don't need to do that because we've got full control over where the sharpening is going to be. So I'll paint in, and once the painting is complete, hit play again, and that finishes building our mask. When I go back to the layers panel, we'll see that on the sharpen layer I do have that very detailed mask. Remember, white reveals, black conceals, so any place we see white here, places where there's edge contrast and texture detail, that is where our sharpening is going to be applied. How did I get this version of the mask? Remember, the Alt or Option key, click on the layer mask thumbnail itself, and that's going to show you the layer mask. With our sharpen layer and the mask built, now it's time to go in and do our sharpening. We come up, filter, sharpen, and I'll use smart sharpen today, my preferred filter. I'll slide it slightly out of the way, and then I'm going to plus up my image in terms of zooming in to about 50% for all the reasons that we talked about during the seminars. And now with the image at 50%, I can go through and check my dialog. Preview's good. We'll leave it at basic. I'm removing lens blur, and for this type of image, I like to check the more accurate box. We start with the radius. High detail 0.5 to 1, this is a relatively high detail image. We're going to leave it at a radius of 1 pixel. If this had been a lower detail image, we might want to go 2 to 3 pixels. Also, if you don't know, 1 to 1.5 is always going to keep you safe. So with a radius of 1, our workflow is to take it down to 100%, and now we're going to start that Goldilocks process, toggling on and off as required. So I will click my preview toggle on and off, and I see that this is just slightly not enough. So I'm going to bump it up to about maybe 125. Toggling it, I'd like to see just a bit more. So I go to 150. And now I'm starting to see here on my monitor, not sure how well that's going to translate, but I'm starting to see that, you know, this is the right sharpening level. It's that just right thing. It's not too much, it's not jumping off at me, it's not I'm really having to squint. I like where we are with this. So I'm going to hit OK. The Smart Sharpen filter is going to continue running and apply that sharpening to our sharpen layer, but we're not going to see it all because we have that very detailed mask. Once it finishes, we know that our job isn't complete because we still need to assess a couple things. After the fact, what are we going to do? First step, get in there and toggle the layer visibility icon on and off and give yourself an assessment one more time of how is the sharpening. Is it not enough, necessitating that I maybe go back and do some of these steps again? Or is it too much? If it is too much, we always have our layer opacity to help us out. I bring the cursor up to opacity, get the scrubby slider, and then can slide to the desired opacity level. The simplest way to make the assessment of what opacity is going to be correct is to set the opacity at a specific level and then toggle your layer visibility icon on and off. The changes are so subtle as we're moving that opacity slider, we're just not going to see it otherwise. So when you have your opacity set and you're happy with the sharpening amount, then we need to look at the normal versus luminosity blend mode. We know that the sharpening algorithm affects not only tones but colors. Sometimes that's an overall enhancing effect. Other times it doesn't work out quite so well because we see those color artifacts degrading the image. So between normal and luminosity, I'll go to luminosity, and then to see the change back and forth, just the simple undo, redo. Control Z on the Windows, Command Z on the Mac, and now I'm looking along the edges as well as any place where there might be some texture detail, and I'm trying to see, is there any type of color change or degradation. For me, if I don't see any change, then I'm going to leave it in the normal mode, let the algorithm work as it was designed. If I do see some issues, then I switch over to luminosity. For us right here, it's going to be the normal blend mode. After that, I hit the Control or Command 0 to fit the image back on screen, and I have my sharpening, that is my output sharpening, finished. Now we're going to pick up our discussion next week and integrate into this whole process one of the keys that we have to do before actually executing the sharpening, and that is image sizing. We know that sharpening applies differently to each image based on content, size, as well as media type. So we're going to continue working through this whole process, tie all of the loose ends up, and end up giving you a great sharpening workflow for output, creatively, and ultimately we'll talk back about input sharpening also. Kind of doing it in the reverse order, just because that's how the online classes flowed. So thanks again for checking this out. Remember, every Friday morning on the blog, that's lightworkshops.blogspot.com, there is going to be the link for next Monday's seminar. Also, if you happen to be part of the Twitter crowd, twitter.com/lightworkshops. You can't miss it because I'm going to push it out to you every Friday morning. Thanks a lot for your time. Have a great, bit of fun with your output sharpening workflow. Take care.